in the first instance, I actually don't want you guys, closer. I don't want you guys thinking about heel hooks much at all, right? The first thing is like we want to be comfortable in the position. The only thing I do want you to think about is crossing your feet. Because once we get this habit of not having foot crossed, and then we add heel hooks, it's just a recipe for disaster. So we're going to cross our feet. And then what we're really thinking about is how can we unwind the position first? How can we work defensively to get out of here if we feel like the other person is likely to be better at leg locks than us? Which, when that happens, because of the nature of 50-50, being that it's a race, it's whoever's going to have the best knowledge of the ins and outs of the position and who's going to be fastest. And you haven't drilled that to the right extent to best your opponent. And sometimes the best option is to get the fuck out of here. So the way we look at doing that is I want to turn away from my opponent, not towards them. The reason I turn away and not towards is that if I'm turning towards them and trying to come up, for starters, I have to uncross my feet to start getting pressure to come forward, and that exposes my foot. Second, when I come up, once I get to here, even if I get what would be my ideal outcome, which is like chest to chest pressure, I'm still stuck in 50-50. My leg's still trapped, right? So even if the best possible outcome for me happens, I'm still stuck and I can't get out of here. Thirdly, going in that direction applies a whole lot of lateral pressure into my knee. And I see this all the time. People will be in this 50-50 and both people are trying to like come up towards each other, placing massive pressure through the outside of the leg. So we don't want to be in the habit of trying to come in to face our opponent. When that pressure is coming in, it's often better to let the person come up and go off to one side, or if you're on top, to be swept, than it is to apply all that pressure through the outside of your knee and risk breaking it, right? So, crossing my feet, I'm turning outwards, and I want to get it so that my foot can plant flat on the ground and I can start getting weight into it. Because once I start getting weight into that foot, it's very difficult to attack. Same as a straight foot lock. So I'm going to bring this foot in close to my butt, which is going to enable me to come forward, and I come up to one knee. Then we're just going to drill this. So I'm going to get up to this position, and then Matt is going to do the same thing to me. He's going to tip me out to the side. He's going to pull his foot in and come up to a knee. I'm going to remember just to the knee for now. And I'm going to remember to cross my feet. In order to get this tip, what I want to do is I can back heel, pinch my knees together, lift my hips up, and then start turning outwards. And he's going to go with that motion rather than fighting it. I'm going to come up to a knee. He's going to pinch his knees, elevate. I'm going to go with the motion. He's going to come up to a knee. All right? So that's what you guys are going to drill. So now that you guys are feeling comfortable with that, we're going to go to stage 2. So, borrow that again. So once I get myself up to this position, the first thing that we're going to be doing is I want to try and get this leg to the other side of his body, right? So I'm going to keep my weight down. I'm kind of shifting my weight a little bit more onto my knee. I can straighten this leg out, cross to the other side. And I'm immediately chopping back with this leg, planting my knee on the ground, and then ideally I want to catch under the elbow, get an upper body lock, and then I can sprawl out, straightening my leg. I'm just going to release my leg. I can use my second foot across the shin to help free it. And then I'm going to start coming into a top position, clicking Matt's fingers on the way through. Okay, so one more time. So I'm here, I go to the outside, and come up, I'm going to get this leg to the other side, chop, under the elbow. It's not the end of the world if I don't get under this elbow. I can also use the head, but when we start drilling this live, you'll see how this hand comes into play. Okay? So I try to get in here for this control, straighten my leg out. I can start moving into a dominant position from the top. Beautiful, really nice heavy hits. Okay, so now this is the first of a couple of sections of live drilling, and what I really wanted to show was the real problems that come when people are trying to execute the same move on each other in a situation like this, and we use that in this session as the primary way of deciding what was going to be taught next. So we can see here that whilst I've said, we want to avoid having too much pressure on the inside or the outside of the knee, there's still a habit here of waiting a little bit longer than the ideal to go with the movement and fall backwards. We've got a lot of focus on the upper body, like in the hand fight, and some attempts to drag the leg back across, but they haven't quite figured out the best ways to do that yet. So when we get into the next technical section, that'll be one of the primary things I'm looking to get out of the questions that we ask. And here we are resetting again. Classic slap and bump. So here we can see a little bit of hesitancy as who's going to move first, and again, still tending to turn in and come up, which in this circumstance has worked for Fraser here. But, as soon as you have two people applying that pressure to each other, that's where the risk of harm to the knee comes in. So during this, I was also encouraging them to, take the sweep rather than trying to, get that chest-to-chest pressure when the knee's at that bad angle. A little bit later in the session, we start to look at how we can have alternatives from the bottom player which make us a little bit less resistant to the idea of being swept to our back. We can see Fraser here remembering the technique we were working on and bringing his leg across the body and coming out just before time ran out. Okay, so what was happening? What did you guys notice?
Oh, so much pressure on the knee.
A lot of pressure on the knee, yeah. I noticed with both of, you're both extremely strong, right? With guys like you, this stuff terrifies me because you've got so much power in your legs that there is a high risk of that injury. So it's really important for you to be extra cognizant, both of your own strength and how when you're with each other, there's actually an equal force on the back. But also if you're training with other smaller people, being careful not to apply all of that pressure onto them. Because, for instance, your leg's against mine, and that if I made the mistake of trying to go through that way, it would probably blow out my leg, not yours. So it's that equal sort of keeping ourselves safe and keeping each other safe. Yeah. But I thought you guys were actually doing pretty well at noticing, okay, that's going too far. Let's back off.
Yeah.
Okay. What about in the actual application of the technique? What happened when you were trying to get the leg over?
Well, it's way more difficult than some of the alternatives
Yeah.
that we've been through previously. I noticed that because their hands in the way.
Yeah.
You don't want to kick them in the head either?
No, you don't want to. Sometimes you will. There's a little bit of a flexibility thing, right? When you're trying to get that leg out straight and over the head. Were you finding the person was grabbing the leg and not letting you get it to the other side, or was that not something that was happening?
I mean, yeah, it's you kind of have to set it up. I felt like I had to set it up. You have to distract them first, then get the leg over.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's just too obvious.
Yeah. Yeah. So what will quite often happen is we'll be in this configuration, and as you come up, the person will start doing this. And they'll try and use this plus their leg movement to tilt you over, right? And having this grip in the way can actually be a really nice way of stopping them from getting the leg to the other side. I didn't really notice either of you doing this. You were way more focused on this kind of hand fight, which actually makes this easier, right? Because without that control, you can kind of control the wrist and just kick the leg out straight and over the top and back, okay? So I want you guys to try again, but just be aware that that's an option. When they start coming up, hold on to that leg. Get like the equivalent of a straight ankle lock grip on the inside leg and see how that affects the interplay.
Yep.
Okay? 2 minutes on the clock, jump back in 50-50. All right, so here we have some more situational sparring. Fraser's still having a bit of a tendency to come up towards the middle, but I'm starting to see that both of them are a little bit more willing to take the sweep, go to their butt, and then fight their way back up rather than sticking to it. And I'm also, during these sections of rolling, reminding them to do so. So there, Fraser actually did a really good job of getting his leg across to the other side of the body, but Matt quickly digging in with his hands. So in the next section of questioning, I'll try and lead them towards that as the next thing that we want to focus on, just kind of revising what I talked about right at the start. I told him to reset by crossing his feet, but he interpreted that as resetting to the original position, so a little break in the action there. So we go Matt, almost coming up to both feet, which is a real option we haven't really talked about in this session, but we'll get there. Fraser doing a good job of preventing that foot from going across, really starting to put that ankle grip into action, which particularly once we start looking at heel hooks, I mean that becomes a really important point of transition. Still working on the hand fight, really. This is still more pressure on the outside of the knee than I'd like, but they are aware. They seem to be becoming more aware of where that's like too much and taking the position in the butt. Yeah, using both feet to kick on the inside of the arm. These little sections of situational sparring are really valuable because it's where they find techniques and ideas from improvising themselves. Often people don't need to be told all of the information. And there we go, the timer running out. So we want to focus on that arm catching the leg. Okay, so what was happening then? What was different?
A bit more knowledge, a bit more of a battle.
Mm-hmm.
Got those arms around the leg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can feel when you apply the technique with the right force, the physics of it just makes it so much easier to sweep.
Yeah.
Still hard to get that leg over and keep it there.
Hard to keep it there, actually.
Yeah.
Hard to get it there.
Both of us got our legs over but haven't brought back.
So what happened when you got your leg over? What did the other person do?
Just get muscle back.
Got muscle back? Yeah. How did they do that? What did they use?
Felt feeling pretty easy. Must have been hips or leg, like that turn. To head throw it like
Part of what gets the leverage, but
yeah.
they're using their hands, right?
Yeah.
They're using their hands, using that arm. So that's the reason that I talked about when we were first looking at it. Why, when I come up and I get my leg over the top, my arm is following my knee as I come over, straight under the elbow. Try and grab my knee to pull it back over. So there's the hand. Oh. It's good, right? So as you bring that leg over, track with your hand. Even if I lose that battle for the underhook, I've got a second go at the head, right? So let's say I've done all this stuff and I've come up to here, and you're grabbing that overhook grip. Right? I still have another chance getting this overhook. So that right arm, that same side arm, is critical to being able to complete that sprawl, right? We're not just sprawling our leg out because it's going to get taken back. They're going to use their arms. Yeah. So we're trying to beat this arm and beat the head so that they can't get underneath it. Does that make sense? Okay, now secondarily, when
you first plant the foot, you're getting really close. You're getting this knee really close to here.
Correct.
Which is, I think I was quite wide trying to.
Yeah, you're quite wide out here. Now sweep me. Right. Getting close. Now try. The further my base is out, the more trouble I get. Mm-hmm. The more I get in here, start controlling the head. Now try.
I feel like I'm applying force to my own neck.
Nice. right? So that leads nicely into the second point. When I come up and you've got this overhooked ankle grip, by coming forward, it's really difficult for me to just pull this leg out over the top, right? So I need to deal with this somehow. You were actually getting close with what you were trying to do. I don't know if you noticed, but grabbing the elbow, peeling it, but the next step is straightening this leg. Try and keep your grip.
Nice.
Right, so have a go at drilling that really quickly. Get into that position, peel the leg and straighten it out, and then try and get on the inside of it, and then change the side the leg is on. Yeah, keep straightening it, straightening it, straightening it. Now try go to the inside. So, not this hand, reaching underneath, and then clear it. And then leg kicks over the top, and chop back real hard with that right leg. Yep. Good. Nice. Straighten that leg. Straighten that right leg. Good. Clear it out of the way. Use your left hand to pump it down. Right leg over the top. Yeah, there it is.
All right, so we got a much shorter chunk of situational sparring here. I've cut out some of the extra time spent on it, but I think what we're going to see here is them really putting more attention into chasing the knee going across the other side of the foot, going the other side with the arm. See, here we go. Fraser straight away. He's got his leg across and he's really fighting for that underhook. Almost getting turned onto his butt, but he manages to fight through it and get his legs through. So, lesson learned.
So, what do we notice now?
Still a hard task to get the leg out and over.
Yeah, yeah.
And even when you get it there, if you haven't followed with the arm straight away, it's like there's no point.
Yeah, you can kind of get taken back, right?
Back.
Yep.
So you get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, with technique wise, like I think the last one you did was really smooth. But technique wise, unless you've got a second thing to demo with, that one's really hard.
That's also like when you get 2 minutes in, that's when the gaps start popping up. So when we both start to panic,
Open up a bit more.
Yeah. Okay. Swap out for a second. I want you to chuck the timer on. We're going to do one, and we'll add a different detail.
Okay, so in this section, what I want to try and do in what I'm executing is show them an option taking the back, and straight away Fraser's noticing what I'm doing with my foot, which is good. And that coupled with this tip sweep can be a really effective combo. So Matt remarked before on the fact that if you don't have a second option, it can be really hard to just unilaterally focus on this one thing. So I kind of want to expand the game for them a little bit and add in some new parameters. And here, because I'm combining those two things, I see the moment to get my leg across and cup the head instead of the arm. Controlling the head is a good option there as well. Here you can see I'm doing a bit of work to control the knee line here, bit of a heel hook training reflex there, but also good to do in general. And here you can see me looking to take it back. I actually fluffed this entry a little bit, and I got lucky in being able to switch sides and control the hip. But this is where I wanted to lead them, and what I hope they're paying attention to. Here we have another go. I think in this one I don't manage to get to the back, but I use the X to technical stand-up. So here I'm trying to keep the bend in his leg, distracting him, working the hand fight, but controlling the knee line. Looking to stand up, but I'm really not fast. When he starts to come up, I go straight to my butt. Again, focusing on that, not putting too much pressure on the outside of my knee. Get my foot into the hook position here. Because he's standing up, rather than staying down on that knee, I feel like it's a better option here for me to just take X guard. I look for technical stand-up sweep. So we'll see what they have to say.
Okay. What am I doing differently?
Controlling my exit points a bit more, or my attack points, stopping me from being able to defend when you're coming up.
Yep. I'm a lot happier playing on my back. What was I doing differently on my back? It'll be blaringly obvious.
Put a leg in.
Putting a leg in. Putting a fucking leg in.
And you weren't like committed to getting onto the right side. You kind of got centre and then went right or left.
Yeah, that's it.
I just think it's like learning techniques. It's a constant, like it's easier to do it in flow.
Yeah.
But when you're thinking of the technique, you move, like if you miss part of the flow.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get the single-minded focus,
Yeah.
right? You're like attached to the idea of like, turn to one side, get my leg over. And that's partly, it's my doing, right? I've told you to do this one thing, and through creating those limitations, we're highlighting the deficits that we get along the way. So I'm transitioning between this 50-50 to like an X guard. And there I can, there's a lot of different things we can do. I don't want to go too deep into it for now. But we'll look at one good option, which is taking the back. So as Matt comes up, get to here, I get my control of this leg. I want to kind of pull this forward. I want a bit of space. And the space allows me to get a hook to the inside of his hip, like across the hip here. What's that? Yeah. Right. So I get to here. From that position, I start to turn, and I'm elevating this leg, making him heavy on this side. I can control this far leg. I then bring my shin to this kind of crab hook position. I'm going to let go of this hand, but I'm going to grab straight up to the hip. And then I'm going to extend this right foot away from me. And I can even slide down towards the ankle, creating this splay, popping him into a back control with a seat belt.
That's X-guard.
It's a variation of X-guard. Lachlan Giles would call it 70-30 because I've kept this foot on this side. But it's an X variant. Right? I mean, our traditional X-guard is like here, right? Usually with this leg side on the other side, right? But we've started in our 50-50, and I'm kind of turning to create this shape. I could look to go X-guard. I did at one point. I went for an X-guard and ended up transitioning to this kick-out sweep, or the technical stand-up sweep, right? But that was me being opportunist. I'm going to focus here, turning my ankle the other way, and grabbing this leg. I then bring this knee to the inside, and release this. And as I'm extending, I reach up to the hip, and then I can kick out, grab across the other hip, and catch the back. Yeah, good. One detail was missing. Did you notice what you didn't do? Did either of you notice what you didn't do?
And
Hand.
Yeah.
because that leg was free.
Just leave.
Grabbing the secondary leg. Try again.
Would you kick the foot or the shin?
You can kind of kick out against the back of the knee, and then as you pull his hip into you, that leg will naturally straighten, and you can either keep it behind the knee or it'll naturally slide to the ankle.
Hooks.
And then hooks. Nice. Hold on. Take it back a step. Where's your left foot? There you go. Now, good. And left hand controlling the ankle, remember? Okay, come out for a second. So, let's look at a couple of whys. We'll drill in a second, but if I don't switch my hip, it's really difficult for me to get my foot underneath. The reason I can't switch my hip is because this foot is in the way. So I've really got to create this space so I can come more onto this hip. This allows me to get my foot in place. From here, one of the big risks is that he starts turning his knee in and he just turns back on me and he can start getting out and applying forward pressure, right? Particularly when I start looking to switch my knee position, you can look to do that step over that we were just doing, right? So change the angle. When I change the angle, I grab the ankle, because now if he tries to turn towards me, there's two things stopping him. My hand on his ankle is a proxy lever to his knee and his hip. If I don't have this, he can start basing it around and turning the corner. That's one. Number two is my foot on his hip here. This is the other thing stopping him from coming towards me, right? So from here, I keep turning to this side to bring my knee underneath, because it's going to be difficult if I let go and then try and push this up from here, get my knee underneath. What I like to do is get under the ankle and bring my knee to the inside to here. Now I've got both of these controls still. Now I can let go of this one as I start kicking forward, but I maintain this ankle till I get the hip. I can kick them out straight, then transition to this hip once I'm ready to get the full back control. Does that all make sense? So get your left hook in place, turn onto your left side and pull his leg up. Your left side, and you're pulling his arm up, his leg up, sorry, yeah. And turn all the way onto that hip. You don't want that foot on the ground anymore. So I was demonstrating it on you every time, so you can't really see this. All right, so in here, got this grip. See what I'm doing here as well?
Yeah.
And as I get control of this, I can start looking under here, elevating, bringing my knee underneath, hip control, extend, back control. Open up the space, good, beautiful. Okay. Elevate behind the leg, hip control. I would aim to grab the right hip control first. But it's all good. The bare bones of it are there.
Yep.
Okay. I would have loved to have done more drilling of that, but if you guys keep coming along, we'll keep progressing within that system. But the thing to remember about that little switch there is it's also a shift in mindset, right?
Yes.
So if we're really single-mindedly focused on I need to get top position, and step around or unwind the legs, and we'll talk about unwinding the legs another time. But if we're single-mindedly focused on that, we ignore the fact that we do have options as a bottom 50-50 player as well, right? And if we know we have options on both sides, then we're a little bit more willing to just take the sweep, relieve the pressure on our knees, and keep working safely.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Really good work, guys. Awesome.
Hey, brother.
Well done.
And cut.